Hello worldies, and welcome back to my naughty little channel. I hope you are all enjoying your week and all of that. I do want to make a quick announcement that I do have a video that has been requested by some of my audience, talking a bit about kind of how mental health and neurodivergence, things like that, can impact your social climbing journey. All of the things like that are going to be behind a paywall. They're going to be over on the members page. So that video is coming soon. It's also probably most likely going to end up on my Patreon first because I don't have to do any graphics mainly for anything. But I'm really excited to share that all with you. A lot of people have been asking information, so I'm not a doctor, just want to share what I can. But today, you see the title, you know what we're talking about. I want to kind of talk a little bit more about the topic of pretty punishment because it's something that people have kind of been talking about a bit more. Obviously, Saweetie, she went viral a while ago talking about how she linked her her career and where it's at to her feeling as though she gets punished for being pretty. And a lot of people made all these memes, blah, blah, blah. Sweetie is, people claim she's not the best lyricist and all these different things. But I think that what she touched on is a very nuanced thing that a lot of people don't want to address. And it's about the fact that, your halo effect does have, it's a double-edged sword for sure. Or it's it's floating on top of a double-edged sword, because when it comes to the hypervisibility, when it comes to all this privilege that you have, that you're experiencing these, wherever you feel as though everybody else in society, oftentimes, even if you have worked to the point where you don't have hierarchy thinking, majority of people around you and institutions do place either its numerical value or it's some sort of other factor, trait, characteristic, or whatever, where people are being ranked out and things like that. And I do feel as though these people who, babies think they're beautiful, animals walked up to them, they just have this je ne sais quoi. They are they're that person where eventually people are starting, they're always creating buzz. They're so, they have maybe a rich cultural background. Maybe they're just so beautiful. Their beauty is rare where they are, or it's just so, it's striking. Even in a family, you can have people who all look the same, they all look similar, and you have somebody who's oh my God, they're striking. Literally, you stop and you stare and you're oh my God. And also when it comes to just developing yourself into an entire person full of talents and abilities and experiences, even just having a direction for where you're going in your life, it all comes together, when you already have this foundation of pretty privilege where you're going to have people that start saying you know what, I'm so tired. This girl is everywhere. What the fuck? She's always getting an opportunity. People are always talking her, they're always speaking her name into rooms. They're always she's always getting the promotion. She's always got, if they're male centered, she's got the guy or whatever, they'll pedestalize anything that this woman has. They just assume that this woman, because of this halo effect that's around her, they're starting to say, what is so good about her? And their mindset shifts to wanting to find your flaws and focus in on them. Now, why is this, right? What is the difference between a woman who feels as though she's experiencing pretty punishment, right? And somebody else who would take somebody who's, completely aesthetically the opposite of this person, and they'll say, well, you always have people who are well, this person isn't having this problem, even though I'm not as this and that, because it's not a comparison by any means, but it's, you have the people who are clearly benefiting from pretty privilege, whether or not they're saying it out loud, and then you have the people who are clearly not, whether or not we're saying it out loud, no matter how much we want to say, oh, well, I just think that the most beautiful thing about her is her heart, her heart that is having problems and is literally about to experience heart failure soon. My favorite thing about her is her smile. That's you can barely see it under all these extra rolls and chins and everything. Watching those videos, it's so crazy when you watch girls, when they were ginormous and you see them, when they get smaller, even on your own weight loss journey. I'm telling you, being fat won't make you ugly, but I will say that you look so different. Like just going off of, if somebody is like obese, it's like they're already not even reaching their full potential as far as their facial features even being distinguishable. Like there's so many times where like I see those videos, and it's like it starts off the girl when she's ginormous, and then it's her when she's lost the weight, she's hit her goal or whatever, she's like drastically transformed. And it's like, it's not even that you got smaller, you got prettier. Like you actually look at like everything about it. It's not even just your weight, but it's like, you know, subconsciously we do say, oh, you're healthier, I feel safer, you know, evolutionarily speaking, being in a group with this person. They can pull their own weight, they won't hoard too much, you know. If I'm being like, I don't care if I had a friend who was obese and I know they're always overeating, and we were in some like doomsday survival type of situation, and it was between them and somebody I didn't know from a can of beans, and they just looked like they understood how to not be gluttonous, I might say fuck the friendship. Like even when I see stories about like, oh, girls going out together and it's the club situation, is this, that, and the third, sometimes, you know, people always want to be like, oh, it's so mean, or it's this and it's that you want to be selective and whatnot. But it's not that I want to be selective. It's that if I'm being real, you want me to be selective. You want me, I'm fit, right? Because this is the thing, like a lot of times women will try to shame pretty girls out of their exclusivity because they want to ride your coattails, right? Anytime you see some sort of story time where it's like some girl who was like the not pretty privileged friend in a group of like everybody else who like was like, it was just like maybe one odd girl out, or is like a friend group that's like mixed, or even you could see this in a workplace, you could see this in a family dynamic, you could see this in any type of, you know, acquaintances, a group, whatever, a club, a sorority, where it's almost giving the haves and the have-nots or whatever, where it's like these are them ones and these are the other ones. It's not an arrogance thing, it's just a reflection. And this is another thing I have to talk about narcissism as well, because I think people don't understand the difference between narcissism, like a female narcissist, versus a woman who is aware, and she's just aware of the pedestal that she has. Like at a certain point, let's say you come out the womb and you just think you're regular, and then every single experience you have, whether it's in the Black community, whether it's amongst other women, whether it's with any single situation you're having, people are saying things to you that you can analyze, that you know psychology wise they're just saying directly to you these different compliments or these different ways that they're treating you. And I'm not talking about just people who are able to manipulate and love bomb you. I'm talking about people who have nothing to gain, just across the board situations, the doors that open for you, the type of life and trajectory that you're able to have, the way that the world responds to you. You know, you're opening all of these doors for yourself. And there are women who they are trying to act like they don't want to have the same doors open for them, and that's what they're saying to cope with their lack of discipline, with their unhealed shadow self, with their unattended to mental health or undiagnosed whatever is going on. Instead of them attending to that, they'd rather try to act like they don't want what you have. But right at the end of the day, keep it real. Anything that you want in your life, you're going to get. And I definitely ripped this idea straight off of YouTube from somebody else. You're going to get the life that you want through people, places, and things. Okay, 9 times out of 10, unless you're an idiot, you're not going to prioritize relationships with people if you feel like the places they go to are places that you don't want to go to too, right? When you talk about the women who are male-centered and stuff like that, and they're out there, they're obsessed with swirling, and they're literally dedicating their entire life, their hairstyles, their nail colors, their wardrobe, their activities and hobbies, everything towards living a life. They're not even trying to go get leveled up girlfriends out of this lifestyle, out of leveling up, which I would say is the best thing. Male-centered. I want to be surrounded by other like-minded, amazing women who I can mutually nourish and that I have things in common with. You know, it's giving more so that they want. It's like they want to go there too. Like if you are like, just keep it real. Like if you think about these types of situations, it's like half the friend group is like severely obese. Like, and this is the thing, like I am old enough to the point now where I'm aware, right? I think that there are a lot of people who want to fake this kumbaya bullshit. And I love women who I can love, right? I love women who are loving and who are leveling up and who are disciplined and who I have things in common with, and who, you know, they get their sense of worth not from trying to outpace me or outdo me or from ranking against the next woman, but they have this inner sense of glow, this inner sense of peace, this inner fire and fuel that they are using to build them towards their own passions and drive and all of those things. It really is, it's sickening, because it's like, people want to say that, oh, you know, pretty privilege is not fair, this, that, and the third. But if I'm being completely real, right? If I'm a designer, right? Like, you want to talk about modeling, right? If I want to give a great exposure and introduce a new model to the world, basically put them on the map, you know, I want to give them access to wearing my designs, my quality, luxury, things that, these are my creations, things that are important to me. You know, you want to say pretty privilege is not fair, but you know what? If that girl, if the girl over there didn't have the discipline to not eat 5,000 calories every day for like the last 1,000 years of her life, if she consistently makes choices that result in a body that she hates, a body that, hey, I don't want to see my clothes on, like, and I'm just keeping this real, like, I could lie to my audience, right? I hope that nobody came here for lies. If so, please unsubscribe. I'm not here for lies. One day, maybe I'll release a clothing line. If I'm going to be completely honest, I'm not coming out with XXXXXL. Like, I'm not coming out with that, because if I'm being completely real, I don't want my brand to stand for that. You know, we're not going to be on some, you know, fat shaming type of thing or whatever, where, you know, I know what my community of women is, and I'm going to most likely, I doubt that if you're at 7XL or something like that, the type of content that I make, this pretty privileged type of content, these types of conversations right now, they're probably too triggering for you. You know, if you're at the point where you're just like 2X, you might be XL or something, and you're actively, maybe you came from a different spot or whatever, and you're actively on that trajectory, you may listen to this type of content while you're on a walk, while you're sitting there meal prepping for yourself, while you're sitting there doing whatever, while you're researching for yourself, you're setting up appointments, you're ordering things, supplements, vitamins, whatever, you're sitting there making good choices. You know, when somebody's so far removed from that whole trajectory and energy, you know, it creates this type of dynamic where it just doesn't flow together. You know, the girl who had the discipline and has the more universally aesthetically pleasing body does deserve the opportunity. And I'm not going to say like in a moral sense or like I'm the judge and jury over this. What I'm saying is, it's really weird to try to put your energy into shaming people, into giving you opportunities or access to things that they're telling you by their criteria you didn't earn, and you're just trying to force your way in. Like, it's giving entitled. It's weird. You know, there are people who they say, oh yeah, well there are women who like it's not that they just think that they're conceited about their body, or they think that they're conceited about their beauty, or they think they're conceited about their personality or something like that, or their talents and their abilities. They actually live a reality that says, oh, because you're so damn pretty, we're going to da-da-da. Because you have such soft, feminine, delicate hands, da-da-da. Because you have, you know, such an amazing talent and skill at doing makeup, da-da-da. Because the way you walk, the way your body looks, like, I don't even know who you are. Like, who can I photograph you? Can I take you out? And it's not a superiority thing or whatever, but what it is that when you have women who you don't even have to be capitalizing on that, if I'm being completely real, because you can have women, you know, I've talked about this before, like neurodivergence and mental health and real life trauma and poverty and like war and things that happen in your life and your family and your relationship with your pets, your home, your town, your your country, those things don't just skip over you. You know, there are even spiritual afflictions that people can be dealing with, healing from. You know, that stuff doesn't necessarily just skip over you because you're a pretty girl. If you want to be completely real, when it comes to people who are about that life or in there dibbling and dabbling in the witchcraft and the workings and the roots and all that stuff, the food, the people who are under the attack from those types of things the most are the gifted, are the beautiful, are the pretty. So it's like sometimes when a woman who is not living that lifestyle, she's hearing another woman speak about her experience and she can't connect to it as much because maybe she doesn't know what it's like to be undergoing spiritual warfare. Maybe she doesn't know what it's like to be bullied literally because she walked in smelling good, pretty, nice, sweet, humble or whatever. And that she had to become a cocky ass bitch because bitches kept playing with her. Like, that's such a real thing when it comes to this exotical sector and as a whole, and so many women who grow up to become these bitches and these savages and stuff. It's like I really tried to be so nice. I tried to be so sweet and so humble, but everywhere I went, there was some dusty, raggedy, rickety bitch who was treating me some type of way because to her, I'm such and such. All of us, there's some guy who's treating you like, and it's not always, you're having the negative and the positive. But why are you even experiencing that? It's because people are looking at you and projecting that your life must have been. You must live in a mansion. You must be hypergamous. You must shit flowers. You must never have a bad day. You must never get a pimple. You must never have gone through anything. And they see all these different things about you, and what they're going to start to believe and how they're going to start to feel is basically like, oh, well, you haven't gone through anything. You haven't really experienced nothing too bad, you can handle. They look at you and they feel like your load is already lighter, and they say you can handle being placed into an unsafe situation. You have to be careful with that when it comes when it comes to women who've never dealt with hypervisibility due to being pretty privileged. They can become a danger and a liability to you in a friendship sense and everything, because you have to think you're trying to go out with these girls or whatever, and they're sitting there silently always harboring this resentment for how they're not being desired, for how they're not looked at, for how they're not touched, for how they're not being slobbered over by these dusty ass men and stuff like that, or because of the quality of men that they're dealing with or whatever. And they look at you and all of your traumas and say, let's say you did have something that happened to you that was maybe like unsafe or inappropriate or something like that. They're sitting there over there like, well, damn, I ain't never had no nigga slide in my DMs. Like, shit. They start thinking in this type of way where it warps their perception, where they're chronically neglected, they're chronically unattended to by their, maybe their family, maybe their primary caregivers, even themselves, if they feel like they're at the bottom of society and whatnot. Or even if that's the messaging that they have received about woman and womanhood because they're male-centered. They start to basically feel as though you become their op. Like it's weird when it comes to male centeredness, because oftentimes the women who become the targets of male centered women, it's other women. It's women who they feel like have what they want. It's women who they feel like have the male gaze. It's the women who they feel as though, their experience, you don't fucking know what that girl's gone through. You don't know. For every, girl who's experiencing the bags, the clothes, the shoes, the hypergamous, the provider and things like that, she may have had another relationship where she was in where it wasn't like that. She may have had another point in time where she went through this, a sickness, an illness, a death in the family, a traumatic thing in her friend, anything that could have happened, a natural disaster. All of those things can happen to a pretty girl. And you see this one chapter and you decide you're not mad. You should be taking up whatever your problems are with your higher power. Don't take them out on the pretty girl. Don't take them and that's what, if these women, they'll feel, you can see this in so many different contexts. And I've talked about this, and, there's so much nuance to this. This can happen in a family. We are, we're grown, we have makeups and breakups. We have baby mama, baby daddy. We have ex-wife, ex-husband. We have all these different things. We have all of these kids that come from different relationships. And, we have step parents and step children and things like that. That can even be a thing if there's some sort of hierarchy hierarchy in the house. People are going to assume, always people validate, oh, well, she was a dark-skinned sister, so, I believe her plight. Yeah, I bet she really was. Anytime she opens her mouth up to say that so-and-so did this to her or so-and-so did that to her, she experienced this trauma or whatever, we're going to believe her. We're going to coddle her and tell her, yeah, you're right. Everything you've missed out on in life has just been because that, we'll do that for the girl who is not pretty privileged, for the girl who's obese, for the girl who's sitting there. She just seems so humble. She feels like she's at the bottom of society. We'll do all that for her. But then when we have the girl who maybe doesn't feel like she's at the bottom of society, maybe her life has told her this or that or whatever, maybe her primary caregivers just did what the fuck they were supposed to do and told her like, oh no, you're not at the bottom of society. You're not being held back by this, that, and the third. You're beautiful. You're fearfully and wonderfully made. Like, not that I'm religious or whatever, but it's like, damn, like, is that what it is? Fearfully, artfully? I don't know. You can tell I'm a heathen. I don't know. But, they'll take that out on there. And there's all these situations where it's like people, they don't know if they haven't experienced it, where if you're the type of person where you can't get along with nobody, if you're like an Amanda Seales, maybe I can't validate that because Amanda Seales, I would say that she is beautiful. She definitely could be benefiting from a pretty privilege or whatever, but she's got that way about her. So I can't necessarily say that with her. But let's say you're the type of girl, you see somebody like Saweetie, I actually don't know her life. I don't follow her. So I don't know if she fits this or whatever. But we're just going to go off on what I'm assuming could be the case or whatever for women that I know, for a woman like me, women that I've connected with, where it's like, you know what? People keep telling me that I can't be exclusive, but I notice that I only have problems with a certain type of bitch. It's only a certain type. And you have to think, like, a lot of girls who feel like they haven't experienced, like, what Saweetie's experienced, like, I don't know. Saweetie's a badass bitch. Like, and you have to think, like, with the ways that people pedestalize stuff, look at her hair, look at her skin tone, look at her features, look at her lineage, look at her culture, look at the fact that she is an exotical and everything like that. That in and of itself, you're going to have unambiguous women. We center blackness in this channel and everything in this sector, and that's what we're talking about. Unambiguous white women, unambiguous other types of people will have, and it's not even just based on them being unambiguous or being ambiguous, but I will say that in and of itself, people do create a hierarchy on how exotic are you, how foreign are you. That is a thing that people create. That's something that can enhance your pretty privilege. Like, you can take two women who look decently the same, pretty much the same, but if you make one who's just more, like, if her features are slightly more a combination of different groups of people, it almost just becomes like a mathematical thing where there's more people who will see her and be like, oh, I see a part of you in myself. That in and of itself makes you familiar, makes you psychologically feel safe, which then in and of itself does go into attraction and things like that, which is why a lot of people they are attracted to people who look like them. That's why people often do think it is weird if your type looks absolutely nothing like you. They act like, phenotypically. It's one thing if you just happen upon a person, or if you are just projecting trauma from your dating experience with these people to whatever, or if maybe it's just a cultural thing that you have observed, and you're kind of just letting life do its thing, and it's okay. Like I said, it's okay to be selective, but you deserve to live a life that is good and positive, and you shouldn't feel as though, like, even in a friendship, I don't think you have to get through betrayal and sneak dissing and her putting you down and her putting you into unsafe situations, and her being a fucking bully to you. Like, if I'm being realistic, people can say, like, oh, it's so exclusive that pretty girls just want to hang out with other pretty girls. But if I'm telling, like, let me tell you something. It's really nice being around other girls who are pretty, who, like, you can talk about the benefits that you've experienced. You can talk about your day and not feel like you're triggering somebody and they're about to have a fucking meltdown and they feel like they're undesirable and they feel like they're rejected just because you talked about your day. That is a real dynamic that happens. And that can be part of the thing that happens with pretty punishment. You're talking about your day. That, like, you start feeling like you're dealing with a narcissist, low-key, because it's like, all I said is that I went to the store, and it to you, because of your experience, it just seems like rattling off like a grocery list. Like, okay, I need to get more bananas, I need some pineapples, okay, I need some mangoes, okay, I need to get some kiwi. You're just literally talking on the phone to your girlfriend, and it's like, yeah, you know, where I went there and this guy held the door for me or whatever, and then like somebody offered to give me a drink and it was so cool, and then like, you know, somebody handed me their card for this, and somebody like asked to take my picture, and they asked me if I model, and it was like all this stuff, and like somebody like, and you're just talking about your day, and it doesn't even have to be, it could just be like, oh, what did you do today? Random detail. To them, it's like, oh, you're trying to like, they think of it as like you're name dropping, or you're trying to brag or whatever. And women, you know, we saw this with like the blunt girly crash out and everything. You know, you'll have certain types of women who it's like, they're then, because of how they feel when you're just talking about it casually, because they want to relate so bad, I'm gonna record somebody giving me a compliment for the one time in my life, and I'm gonna share it and try to brag about it and everything. I'm gonna say, see, I had to have proof. Like, it's weird. And that type of experience that you're gonna be living, you're gonna have all of these situations when you're in like a general, like there are environments that you can control, there are environments that you can't. You can control who has access to text you and call you. You know, there's a block button, there's muting people, there's silencing people, there's cutting people out of your life. They're saying, you know what, I'm not going to that store anymore. You know what, I'm not going over to that side of town anymore. You know what, I'm not going to live in this city. You know what, I'm not going to date this person anymore. You know what, this person doesn't get to have access to me. I'm not going to be in this workplace anymore. You definitely can, but there are certain aspects where you're just moving throughout life. And I think as a pretty woman, it's going to be, you know, if you want to decrease your amount of being punished for being pretty, you do need some sort of aspect where you can where you basically can benefit from other things, in the sense of, like, for example, when it comes to this exotical sector, people like trying to like dox and be all obsessed and stalkerish. What they don't understand, because they're not dealing with the same level of pretty privilege, is that they're thinking, oh, these women are hiding what they look like because they don't experience pretty privilege, and they're talking about something that they don't know about, because when I hear them talk about it, I can't connect to it, and so therefore I think they're lying, because I would be lying if I were to be talking about that topic. I don't know if they're telling the truth or not. I'm just going to assume that they're lying, you know, versus what they don't understand is that some women, maybe they're not showing their faces because they don't want to be dealing with pretty punishment. If you go across, like, you can go to like any exotical channel that's saying the same types of ideas as another channel that, you know, that where it's a very beautiful woman saying the same thing, that woman is experiencing pretty punishment a lot of the time, unless she's very selective about who she allows to have a voice on her channel and things like that. And making sure that it is a positive, safe space for her online. You're going to be dealing with that even in digital spaces, in the workplace. You're going to deal with that everywhere. It's little things like what some women don't know. These, you know, you can, for example, you're a pretty, beautiful, magnetic, chilling, charming girl. You pretty much get along with most people just fine. But then when you come across somebody who's overly dusty, overly obese, overly not working towards their goals, overly a hater, then it starts being like, oh, now that's like, this is really some friction here. Because, for example, somebody, they're a certified hater, they walk around with a resting bitch face, you know, they hate everything. They hate their life, they hate their body, they hate their digestive system, they hate their hair texture, they hate their hair length, they hate their relationship or their lack thereof. They hate basically just like everything about their life. They can't get with the program. They don't like anything that they have going on in their own life. They feel out of control of every single thing. They're walking around, like, you're passing somebody in a hallway and you're damn near skipping to your loo. Like, you're like, oh yeah, pretty girl world, got pretty friends, we getting free drinks. Oh my God, niggas paying my bills. Oh my God, I'm having a good time. Oh my God, I feel snatched. Oh my God, I don't got a boo-boo all the time. Oh my God, my skin is glowing. Oh my God, like, my lace not showing. Like, I literally just turned into a rapper real quick. So, like, please, like, if y'all want to hear me freestyle, let me know down in the comments. I'll put that out for y'all. But I'm chilling. I'm joking right now. You're walking down a hall and it's like you will get punished because it's like, why is that bitch so damn happy? What the fuck happened to you today? My nigga just dated on me. I'm fat still. I woke up being fat again, and I'm in denial about it, and I have all these limiting beliefs, and I hate people who have healthy bodies, and I am convincing myself, I'm putting up this mental blockade where I'm saying like, oh yeah, they must all just be on Ozempic. It's not discipline. It's not, emotional regulation. It's not, science. It's like, it's not actions and consequences. It's just, woe is me. They see you in this little things like, as a society, we are relational. We do need other humans to survive, not in a codependent way or anything like that, or but it's a real thing where we as humans, we feel unsafe. That's why even things like babies, if you take a baby where they never saw anybody smiling at them, and you see a baby who always sees smiles, that literally does something different to their brains. Like, it is being rejected, being excluded, things like that, that does something to somebody over time. And it's like, when people feel like there's a difference between having the belief that you're at the bottom of society, you think that you're the issue, these aspects about me, I'm just here, I'm stuck. Then there's another mindset as far as like, oh no, I'm experiencing pretty punishment. I literally, like, you're doing these social experiments, like, what is it? You're comparing notes. You're like, oh, and it's not even like, oh, it's a paper bag test. Oh, it's a hair texture thing. Oh, it's a certain like weight, like a number on the scale. It's not even these specific things. It's these things in people's psychological profiles, which makes it so that, she doesn't need another fan. She doesn't need another compliment. She doesn't need to feel safer. She doesn't need somebody to smile at her right now. She doesn't need to feel included that bad. It's not that. It's not really that big of a deal. Like, you feel accepted. You feel welcome. People are rolling out the red carpet for you everywhere you go. Like, how bad is it really going to hurt you if I exclude you in this moment? If I bully you right here? If I give you some pretty punishment? Like, well, it's not going to, like, they never think it's going to be the stick to break your camel's back. That's what pretty punishment is. People never think like that. Versus when it's somebody, let's say you find, like, take somebody who's, she's overweight. She's, you feel like you kind of feel bad for her. She's in that demographic of people where you feel like she's at the bottom of society and everything. You're looking at her like, damn, like, I feel like she's about to break through the floor. Like, I feel like her knees are stressed. I feel like her ankles are stressed. Her back is stressed. Everything about her is stressed. Her bones are stressed from holding up all that weight. You know what? Shit, like, I'm about to tell her, I'm about to compliment her. I'm about to go say, I think that the most beautiful thing about you is your heart. I think that the most beautiful thing, the thing that counts the most, is what's on the inside. That's what people do. They're going to go to that person, and it's like, you definitely have to gain self-awareness. You have to be able to tell your own projections and traumas and the way you think about things from what actually the reality of what's happening. That's why it's important to, like, keep a record, like, journal yourself, have people that you talk to about things, compare notes. Community, being relational is important to be able to, even little things like, over on my Patreon, I did a story time that I think potentially may still need to make it to my members page. So I'm going to check on that. I'm trying to, my laptop broke. Like, if I'm being completely real, like, my laptop, half the screen I can't even see right now. And I'm saving for something else right now. And I don't have another laptop. And it's like, I'm about to have I'm just going to say this. I'm about to have a laptop in a couple of days, a new laptop soon, but I don't have it yet because I was, trying to get other stuff taken care of. But so, like, I have to see. But anyways, when it comes to being relational, complaining, being the type of person who, like, you're out there, you're visible, people are paying attention to how other people are treating you, you're gonna have these situations where you can compare notes, or you'll even have somebody else be like, oh, that was fucking weird. Damn, like, what did you do? You'll have other people, and this is the thing, sometimes you don't necessarily need to be so exclusive where you're only hanging out with people who are, like, are the exact same as you and everything. But I will say you can't be around an op. You can be somebody where it's like, oh, like I'm somebody who very much specifically benefits from pretty privilege in these types of ways, this type of pretty privilege or whatever. And maybe they're like a different type, one that's not super as important to me, one that's not really my internalized beauty standard. It's a different type of thing, like, or maybe they're just kind of plain or whatever, but they're not your hater. They're not your op. It's somebody where it's like, we just genuinely connect or whatever. And that type of girl, that type of person in your life is going to be the same type of person who, when they see you dealing with pretty punishment, they're going to be like, damn, what was that? Because you light skinned? Like, the fuck? Because your ass fat? Like, what? Because you're bad as hell? Like, what what was that about? Like, you're in that, and whether you're having people that you're in community with who are the exact same as you, or just people who are on the internal are comfortable with that, and it's a sense of validation. Like, you can actually experience psychological pain from being chronically invalidated and whatnot, which is why this sector is so important. That's why we have so many years and decades, all these stories. You could have anthologies full of all of these experiences that we're talking about. It's important, it's significant for us to be talking about this and sharing these experiences, because it's a real thing, even when it comes to an aspect of mental health and neurodivergence and all of those things and stuff. I think even when it comes to like take two people who don't have social skills, right? We can even take that when it's like, oh, it's your personality and stuff like that. People are going to more harshly judge a pretty person with poor social skills than they will somebody who also does not have that same level of social emotional intelligence, has the same things going on, acts the exact same, but they're obese, but they act a certain type of way. Then it's like, oh, they don't have as much of the halo effect around them. So it's like people are not expecting all these other things, versus it's like, even when somebody's a victim, even when pretty women can't even be victims, it's like at that point they're still looking for some way to poke holes in your story to make you less believable, less credible. They want to still take away your voice. They want to still find some way to make you the problem, some way, something, a flaw, anything, where it's like people, like, in general, like, I don't think that you need to be a slave to people's limitations or whatever they say. This is just how I am. Not at all. At the same time, nobody gets it like somebody who people feel like is not getting it at all. And I'm going to say that again. Nobody gets it like somebody who people feel like is not getting it at all. Like, when you think somebody's already had a rough day, you're going to go out of your way to be nicer to them. When you meet somebody and you feel like, it could even be like, let's say, it could even be that as a pretty privileged woman, maybe things are not even always sunshine and bubblegum and rainbows and all that stuff. But maybe because of your hypervisibility, you've become image conscious, and you've said so one, eyes are always on me, so let me control what people can see. But not only let me control what people can see, but you're used to being chronically invalidated in like random situations by certain people or whatever. And so you're like you could have talked about this with 50 people unrelated, nothing to gain from validating you on this, right? And then you go to one person, this one situation where somebody is dead set on invalidating you. They're dead set on treating you and this is another thing. People, let me finish that thought. I jump around. I know why world is hard to follow sometimes. Please try to keep up if you're over here. Hopefully you're quick-witted, or like you can handle somebody who's or their brain just kind of bounces a bit. Because you're not dim-witted if you can't follow somebody who talks like me. Let me not say that I talk crazy, but there is such a thing as people feeling like when they had their bad day, they don't want to go take their bad day out on somebody else they feel like has had a bad day. But you look like you've had an okay day, so they don't mind taking it out on you. People stereotype you as having like better days and a better life than you do sometimes when you're pretty privileged, because you've probably been conditioned to shut up about your problems around certain types of people. You probably, maybe you don't even know what it is, like, not even on some red pill numerical, oh, I feel safest around 8, 9s, and 10s just like me. It's not even something like that. It's just you energetically are starting to flow more towards and connect more towards people where it's like, wow, like maybe you're not coddling me, but you actually you treat me like a real person who, like, you treat me humanely. Like, you're not treating me inhumane. Like, people will treat a pretty girl inhumanely because they feel as though you can handle it. They're like, well, you know what? You're 46 right now and you're still looking so good, so beautiful. Oh, you're 22 right now. Oh, even you're 18 or whatever. They're just going to assume like, damn, I've been going through mad trauma through my life and everything, and you haven't. You know what? Let me try to give you the equivalent of 18 years worth of trauma right here real quick. Let me try to give you 28 years worth of trauma right here. Let me try to give you 36 years, because they feel like you could just handle it. And it's like, people, it's like damned if you do, damned if you don't. If you talk about your problem, nobody wants to hear your problem because everything else in your life must be so great, or things have typically always been great or whatever. And it's kind of just like, you should just get over it, because it's like, you're not really the type of person to be complaining and stuff like that. So it could be that if you open your mouth, and then if you don't open your mouth, then it's like, oh, well, it's not my fault that I didn't think that you were a regular human being like everybody else who deserves basic decency, basic respect, and like, politeness or whatever. And some people, like, they will literally throw out their social skills. They'll start acting ghetto, erratic, dysregulated, rude, unprofessional, like just everything, just because they're so dysregulated by you existing. They're going to throw out all of their manners, all of everything, just because of you. Like, literally, that's how inferior they feel to you. And so when it comes to this topic of pretty punishment, it's something that you have to be aware of, because you need to understand dynamics, like even the social makeup of your state, your country, a school, a workplace, a family, a club, a store, a neighborhood. Understanding these things, they allow you to keep your brain and keep your sanity and say, oh, well, now I can control what I can. I'm not just going to say, oh my God, well, I'm pretty and everybody's just going to be mean to me forever and ever, and I'm always going to be a victim. Not that I would never point to a specific pretty girl and say, I feel like she's done that. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, instead of that, what you're saying is, wow, okay, I need to gather some information, equip myself with some knowledge, and start to realize, okay, so I am safest around XYZ type of person. Okay, I'm going to try to be around there more. Oh, these people chronically dysregulate me. They get dysregulated. I feel unsafe. They're comfortable. Like, my safety is not a priority. My mental health is not a priority. My feelings are not a priority. All of these different things. I'm standing on business and I'm not going to be over there. And that's how it needs to be all of the time, for you to be able to just, because your mind is such a powerful thing, to be able to even trust your perception of events. People are constantly trying to gaslight you. Like, I promise you, if you think they're not, you're way too naive to be on this channel. And so hopefully we're going to get you up to speed. I am giving tough love today. Oh my God, why am I in this mode? I don't know. Sometimes I give tough love to myself. And so sometimes, because I love my worldies, I want to give that to you too. Like, I hope this is not, we're all big girls here. I hope we understand that this world is fucked up. Let me tell you something. And, but guess what? Like, just because it's fucked up doesn't mean that you have to be fucked up. The world can be fucked up, but you don't have to be. You can still be pretty, paid, like, privileged, all of these things and everything, having a great, fulfilled, healthy, safe life and everything in a fucked up world. If you equip yourself with knowledge and you take responsibility over you're an adult, you, for little things like you're pretty, when it comes to being punishable, how much, like, even with like your pretty privilege and stuff, there's a certain level of, there are pretty privilege women who, if you want to talk about dealing with men and stuff and hypergamy, all those things, there are women who know how to deal with that while still being unpunishable. There are women who know how to, basically get these benefits and everything while still making sure that their survival, their everything is still on them, their mindset, everything is together. And then there are women who fall into these traps People are always constantly setting traps for you as a pretty privileged woman. That is what pretty punishment is. It's when somebody is provoking you, and they're trying to, like, maybe they're dog whistling you. They're trying to do something in a room full of people where it's like only you're going to notice it. Only you're going to be bothered by it. They're slowly pushing your boundaries. They're trying to erode your sense of self-worth and your dignity and everything like that. People are constantly trying to do that because it's like, well, they have a whole lot of time on their hands. They have no dreams, no hopes, no goals, no aspirations, no hobbies, nowhere to be, no people to see, no places to be, no appointments, no meetings, no galas, no nothing. There's nothing going on. They're not trying to improve themselves. They're not trying to learn a new skill, a new hobby. They're not trying to lose that fucking weight. They're not trying to get rid of their micro insecurities with their, all this time on their hands. They'd rather just try to put their energy into you. And something I'm going to be talking about, behind a paywall, something we're going to continue to talk about. We're going to start talking about more dark psychology. I just feel oftentimes that the content that I typically reach for making is for my public channel and everything, but I just recorded something yesterday for members and Patreon, and these types of dark psychology, we're going to be talking about dark psychology with women, dark psychology in the workplace, dark psychology with men, dark psychology based on your phenotype, your cultural background, and your like every single thing that you can think of. That's where I want to go, because when it comes to how I'm talking and how I get to talking sometimes a little bit more tough love, a little bit more aggressive and everything, that is what I really want my whole channel to really kind of be, or whatever. My passion part is usually the stuff that I talk about behind the paywall. That's the stuff where I really feel like, oh, I can expletive, like I can swear, I can say the N-word, I can say, whatever I need to. I can talk about whatever and not really be worried that it's gonna be so it's gonna hurt somebody's feelings or whatever. But what I will say is that I am personally, I'm so excited to be talking about what to do with all this energy. What do you do with pretty punishment? Please don't ever feel like you're stuck, because at least over here, and there are so many other amazing exotical creators that are giving you the same information through their lens, their nuance, their experience and everything from their background. But that is one of my passions. That's the reason that I talk about this. And that's the reason I started this whole channel, is to talk about dark femininity, dark psychology, and to talk about what to do with it. Then we're talking about pretty punishment. We're not going to be punished out of being pretty. We're not going to be punished punished out of our opportunities in our life that we are deserving of, but what do we do? Because something that I feel like is like a personal skill of mine that I pride myself on, I think it's like a talent or an ability, is to take that dirty, disgusting energy from other people and make them eat shit. I can't think of a situation where that's not happened, where somebody has not ended up with egg on their face trying to play games with me. And that's how you need to be. You need to be unpunishable. You punish the people who are trying to punish you. They're punishing you because you're just fucking lit. You're just you need to learn how to, and there's a different, on the public, we could talk about being a little selective with our energy. We could talk about keeping things, quiet, or we could talk about, just dialing it back and conserving energy. Yeah, that's fine. That's neutral. We can also go on the offensive. It's okay to be defensive. That's fine. We're going to talk about how to go on the offensive with situations, because it's really information that you need to know. If you don't know it already, you probably would be, just thinking over certain situations in life differently if you had this information. Once you learn it, you can't unlearn it. It's not for everybody, this type of information. Some people are, it's not for everybody, but I'm so excited. That's what I can't wait to yap about. But, I've been yapping for long enough tonight. So, I really want to know what you all think about this topic. I know that pretty punishment is a very controversial topic to talk about, specifically with the fact that I keep referencing Saweetie. So if you want to talk specifically about Saweetie and that, give your take on that, that's fine. Or just the topic in general, anything else that I brought up. I always want to know what you all want to hear me talk about next. I try to do
sharing other exotical creators or just content that I like over on my post tab and everything. I'm trying to work on just trying to cook up some good things and everything and work on my consistency. And I want to give you guys good content. I want to just continue seeing where this goes. I hope your 2026 is going amazing, because that's when this video is being recorded. But honestly, for what I see for this channel, somebody's going to be listening to this in like 2046. So like, hey to you too. I recorded this like 20 years ago. And I'm like rich now. Like, just kidding. Like, oh my God. My business and everything is always going to be like something that's behind the paywall. Y'all, you know, I can't just put that out there to everybody. But I really want to know your thoughts down in the comments below. So until next time, worldies, eyes on the prize.